Imagine a brand so powerful that it alone embodied the elegance of an entire empire. A trench coat that could be found as much on the shoulders of British soldiers in the trenches of the First World War as on those of Catherine Deneuve. In her iconic roles in cinema, Burberry was excellence, tradition, and prestige. But today, this legendary brand is in the midst of a storm. Sales dropped 25% in Asia-Pacific with a 19% decrease in China. The United States saw a 21% decline. Even in Europe, Ford's home market, there's been a 23% drop in the last 6 months. Numbers that hurt. Even worse, Burberry seems to have lost sight of who it's really talking to. The craziest thing is that the signs of this crisis, they were there for quite some time. We have shaky strategic choices, risky bets, and some monumental flops that have led the brand to where it is now. In a red zone, nearly stumbling. But to grasp this descent into hell, we must first examine how Burberry built its empire. Yes, by reaching for the stars, the brand sowed the seeds of its own downfall. A shipwreck as spectacular as it was predictable, where arrogance and blindness turned a legend into a tottering colossus, ready to collapse under its own dreams of grandeur. The story of Burberry begins in 1856, when Thomas Burberry, a young 21-year-old draper, opens a clothing store in Basingstoke, a small English town. At that time, raincoats were a real hassle. They were heavy, rigid, and suffocating. It protects from water, but at the cost of sacrificed comfort. Thomas Burberry, on the other hand, has a broader vision. He wants to combine protection, elegance, and freedom of movement. In 1980, he will revolutionize the industry with the invention of gabardine, a lightweight, breathable, and waterproof fabric. This tight weave naturally repels water, marking a major breakthrough that adventurers will quickly embrace. The first person to conquer the South Pole in 1911. Roald Amundsen, sorry for the pronunciation, outfits his entire expedition with Burberry. We also have Ernest Shackleton, who is a famous Antarctic explorer who does the same to face the icy storms. In these extreme conditions where every detail matters, the gabardine ensures survival and success. Then comes the First World War. The British Army needs a trench coat that is sturdy, waterproof, lightweight, and practical. As you now know, Burberry fully meets this need with its trench coat. With shoulder pads, a belt, deep pockets for equipment, this coat equips officers and proves itself in the mud and under the rain, becoming a symbol of resistance. After the war, the trench coat will move from the battlefields to the streets of the big cities. It combines utility and style with a timeless look. In the 30s and 40s, it dresses the detectives and spies of the noir films. Then in the 50s and 60s, cinema elevates it to the rank of icon. Humphrey Bogart wears a suit in Casablanca with unmatched class. In France, Jean-Paul Belmondo in films like Breathless is the epitome of cool. Catherine Deneuve exemplified the trench coat's blend of British chic and French elegance in films like The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. In the 20s, Burberry will add another stone to its edifice, which you have all seen at least once, the Novacheck. This tartan pattern, beige and crossed with black, white, and red lines, was born as a lining for trench coats. In the 60s, it was displayed on scarves, bags, umbrellas. Like the Vuitton checkerboards or the Gucci patterns that are well known to us, the Novacheck becomes a distinctive sign of luxury and exclusivity. In the 60s and 80s, Burberry will reach the heights. The British royal family outright awards it official mandates. It's the ultimate prestige brand. International stars will adopt its trenches, and the brand will establish itself in major capitals, London, New York, and even Paris. On the Champs-Élysées, Burberry then embodies British refinement, an empire that seems unassailable. But this dazzling success is also at the root of its future failures. Burberry's excessive focus on shining will lead to a series of strategic missteps. In the 70s, Burberry is going to make a rather unusual decision for a luxury company that will mark the beginning of its downfall. It begins to grant licenses for the manufacture and distribution of products that display its famous Novacheck pattern. The idea behind this strategy is simple. Maximize profits by allowing other companies to produce and sell accessories under the Burberry brand. Scarf, bag, umbrella, hat, the Novacheck will soon be found everywhere. Initially, the expansion appears successful, with sales poised for significant growth and the pattern becoming more recognizable globally. But what Burberry doesn't realize right away is that its luxury brand image relies on exclusivity. In fact, we saw it in the video on how luxury brands scam us. They sometimes destroy their own unsold stock to reinforce this image without hesitation. As its logo becomes ubiquitous on numerous products and in many hands, the brand starts losing its prestige. The 90s marked the beginning of the real disaster. With too wide a distribution and a lack of quality control on derivative products, counterfeits will multiply at an incredible speed. The Czech Nova becomes omnipresent, to the point where even street markets and discount stores start offering imitations. In no time, a pattern that was once exclusive becomes commonplace and overproduced. Then comes the explosion of chav culture in the United Kingdom in the 2000s. This derogatory term, it refers to a British subculture associated with the working classes, excessive bling-bling, and delinquency. The Czech Nova unexpectedly becomes the uniform of this community. It's reminiscent of the reasons behind Gucci's decline, which I recently shared with you in a video. Everything changes in 2002 when a photo causes a scandal. The actress and reality television star Danielle Westbrook is photographed on the street, completely covered in Burberry. Coat, pants, handbag, and even a baby stroller. All in Czech Nova. The image, however, will make the rounds of the tabloids and becomes the perfect illustration of the brand's vulgarization. And that's the last straw. The Novacheck, once a symbol of British refinement, is now seen as a sign of bad taste and excess. The pubs, which are not the most discerning places, and British nightclubs outright ban entry to customers wearing clothes. Burberry for fear of attracting chavs. The brand's image is going to take a hit, from which it will really struggle to recover. Faced with this disaster, Burberry, of course, tries to react. In 2006, under the direction of Christopher Bailey and Angela Ahrens, the brand will decide to gradually remove the Novacheck from the main collections alone. Only a few luxury accessories still discreetly sport the print. But the damage is done. The perception of Burberry has completely changed. Ironically, the brand's attempt to democratize itself to increase profits ultimately diluted its prestige. Burberry will find itself trapped between a high-end clientele who no longer want to be associated with the brand and a more popular audience. Burberry doesn't generate enough revenue to support a luxury house. This fiasco will push them to embark on a radical transformation. The goal, it is now clear, is to shed its mass-market brand image and return to the top of British luxury. But, as we will see, this quest for redemption will be fraught with obstacles. Angela Ahrens' arrival in 2006 will kickstart a radical transformation. With the artistic director, Christopher Bailey, she will lead a rescue plan that will change everything. Burberry's first step will be to stop mass distribution by ending dozens of licenses that had trivialized the brand. The Novacheck pattern is reserved for high-end items and disappears from the main collections. The second step is a return to basics. The trench coat will become the centerpiece again, and Burberry will bet on classic cuts. The third step is a digital revolution. Burberry becomes one of the first luxury giants to exploit social networks and video. Visual campaigns with Emma Watson, who notably played in Harry Potter, Kate Moss, and Cara Delevingne, who all represent this British elegance, will modernize the brand's image. This strategy works. The company will undergo a spectacular renaissance between 2006 and 2014. The results are impressive. Sales have doubled and Burberry has regained its coveted luxury house status. But a new mistake will plunge the brand back into uncertainty. In 2014, Christopher Bailey was promoted to Chief Executive Officer and Artistic Director, a risky decision. He's a design genius, but he has no business management experience. Under his leadership, Burberry will slow down its expansion, while Gucci and Louis Vuitton will explode, thanks to much more aggressive strategies. In 2017, Marco Gobbetti set an ambitious goal to elevate Burberry to the same level as luxury brands like Chanel and Hermes. To achieve this, he will hire Riccardo Tisci, who is a former designer from Givenchy, who wants to modernize Burberry with a strong streetwear influence. His approach shocks as the historic logo disappears. Replaced by a more streamlined design, he will introduce a modern monogram, hooded suits, and imposing sneakers. But it doesn't take off. Loyal customers no longer recognize Burberry, and the young don't find the brand as bold as Gucci or Balenciaga. The result is a commercial failure. Burberry is too modern for its traditional audience and not innovative enough to attract the new generation. Sales decline as the brand faces an identity crisis. Does it want to be a timeless classic or a trendy house? In 2022, Marco Gobbetti will leave Burberry and be succeeded by Riccardo Tisci in 2023. The brand is adrift and a new global crisis threatens its finances. Even worse, Burberry is about to suffer one of the biggest sales drops in its entire history. As of 2024, Burberry is struggling after years of indecision and unsuccessful rebranding efforts, leaving the company unsure of its target audience. Sales have plummeted 19% in China, a crucial market for luxury goods. Luxury brands like Louis Vuitton and Hermès thrive despite a 25% sales drop in the Asia-Pacific region. Finally, a 21% loss in the United States, another key market. Notably, Burberry has been completely dropped from the FTSE 600, the index of the largest British companies. It's a humiliating symbol for a brand that once embodied the grandeur of English luxury. The main problem is that Burberry has lost its identity. The brand wanted to move up market to attract the ultra-rich, but it never had the exclusivity of a Hermès or a Chanel. It aimed to appeal to youth with the streetwear, but was outshined by Gucci and Balenciaga. Even worse, to compensate for the drop in sales, Burberry is going to adopt a strategy of massive discounts in China. A decision that is disastrous in the world of luxury, where exclusivity is essential. Hermès and Chanel will keep their high prices, while Burberry is cutting prices, further hurting its brand image. Customers are confused about the brand's positioning, whether it is affordable luxury or a high-end house. Burberry faces challenges. Joshua Schulman is the new chief executive officer tasked with stabilizing the brand to increase sales. He calls on Daniel Lee, who is a recognized designer, to give Burberry a more authentic breath. His first move is a return to basics, with iconic trench coats back in the spotlight. The Novacheck is reintroduced, but sparingly. The aesthetic is more sober and more elegant. Burberry aims to regain the trust of its longtime customers. But will it be enough? The luxury world is more competitive than ever, and the brand is now far behind. While Chanel, Hermès, and Vuitton are thriving, Burberry is fighting for survival. Can it reclaim its former glory? Yes, but the journey is lengthy. It needs to win back its loyal audience, while attracting a new generation that doesn't even know its heritage. The story of Burberry reminds us that no historic house is safe, and that blurring its image is one of the worst mistakes they can make. A bit like Gucci, which has outright gone from a luxury brand to a specialist in sales, as seen in the video that is displayed.